There is something about ancient humans that archaeology can never completely recover: their thoughts. We can find their footprints, their tools, their fires, their shelters, even objects they deliberately marked, but the one thing that vanished without a trace is the voice inside their heads. So what was actually happening in the minds of people who lived tens or hundreds of thousands of years ago? Were they thinking about tomorrow? Remembering yesterday? Wondering what a strange sound in the darkness meant? We cannot read their minds, but we can follow the clues they left behind. And one of the biggest clues is surprisingly simple: a stone tool. To make a useful stone tool, an ancient person had to recognize a problem, choose material, understand that one action could produce another result, and shape the object with an outcome in mind. Some archaeological evidence even suggests that very early human relatives transported useful stone over significant distances, meaning they were not simply reacting to the moment, they could anticipate a future need. But planning may have gone much further than tools. Imagine a group leaving camp knowing that the best hunting ground was several hours away, remembering where water could be found, watching the changing seasons, and deciding when to move. Archaeologists cannot tell us the exact thoughts inside those minds, but repeated patterns of movement, technology, food processing, and shelter construction reveal behavior that required memory, learning, decision-making, and coordination. Then the evidence becomes even more mysterious. At sites such as Blombos Cave in South Africa, people used ochre and created engraved patterns tens of thousands of years ago. One crosshatched design dates to roughly 73,000 years ago. We can see the mark, but we cannot know exactly what it meant to the person who made it. Was it decoration? A personal mark? Part of a shared tradition? Something else entirely? The honest answer is that archaeology cannot recover the missing explanation. And that uncertainty is important, because ancient cognition should not be reconstructed by simply projecting our own thoughts backward. But there is another clue that brings us surprisingly close to the ancient mind: personal ornaments. Perforated shells and other objects appear at several prehistoric sites, suggesting that some people deliberately altered objects and wore them on their bodies. That behavior may have communicated identity, belonging, status, relationships, or something we no longer understand. Whatever the precise meaning, it tells us that some ancient humans were not thinking only about immediate survival. They were also interacting with a social world in which objects could matter because of what they represented. And then there is the most emotionally difficult evidence of all: the treatment of the dead. At some prehistoric sites, human remains appear to have been intentionally buried. But even here, we have to be careful. A deliberate burial does not automatically prove a specific religion, belief in an afterlife, or a particular emotional ritual. It tells us that people sometimes treated the dead differently from ordinary refuse, and that alone raises a profound possibility: they were capable of responding to death with behavior that had meaning to their community. Their minds were not blank spaces between survival tasks. They were learning, remembering, anticipating, cooperating, adapting, and apparently sometimes giving meaning to objects, places, and people. Even Neanderthals complicate the old image of the primitive caveman. Archaeological evidence shows that they made sophisticated tools, managed fire, hunted, cared for injured group members, and in some cases engaged in behaviors interpreted as symbolic. Some discoveries, including personal ornaments and possible burials, have pushed researchers to reconsider how different Neanderthal cognition really was from ours. But here is the most important point: none of this means an ancient human woke up thinking exactly like a 21st century American. Their world was different, their knowledge was different, their dangers were different, and their culture varied enormously across time and place. What the evidence suggests is something more interesting. The human mind did not suddenly appear fully formed on one magical day. Its abilities were built through countless generations of solving problems, remembering landscapes, learning from others, predicting consequences, and sharing information. The archaeological record is therefore not just a collection of old objects. It is a faint trail of decisions. A stone chosen instead of another stone. A tool shaped for a particular purpose. A shell pierced and carried. A pattern deliberately engraved. A body placed carefully in the ground. Each clue is incomplete, but together they reveal something remarkable. Ancient humans were not simply surviving inside the world around them. They were building mental worlds of their own. And perhaps that is the closest archaeology can bring us to their thoughts, not by telling us exactly what they thought, but by showing us what they considered important enough to do.